The following Parkinson's Path podcast is provided by Lianna Marie with All About Parkinson's and Answers for Elders Radio.
And welcome back to segment number 2 in this series with Lianna Marie from allaboutparkinsons.com. And Lianna and I are talking about just how you deal with the disease of Parkinson's. And number 1, we talked about coping. This one is kind of a unique one, and I'm just going to throw out, you have the power of focus. Lianna, what does that mean?
Well, thank you for having me again. And yes, so focus is an interesting topic I decided to dive into in my current book that I'm writing, The Parkinson's Path, because it was something that I think as people with Parkinson's definitely understand this if they've lived with it for any length of time, but your life can become, it's a very complex disease for starters. So it affects both your physical and your emotional side, both things happening simultaneously. A lot of non-motor symptoms that we aren't aware of, that we're becoming more aware of, that folks know. But it's also, because of all that going on, there's lots of things going on. There's also something, so we're losing our focus because we've just got so much going on, right? And then there's also the actual change that's happening in people with Parkinson's brains, and that's creating this thing. And I think for a while we didn't really know, is this an actual thing or what? And my mom used to say, I just have a foggy brain, I can't multitask anymore. And I'd be like, oh, okay, like all of us have times where we maybe get a little older and we find it a little hard to balance things. But the truth is that for people with Parkinson's, there's an actual change that's happening in their brain that does make it, in fact, they call it dual tasking, makes it, well, it's just doing two things, walking, combining with another task. Whether it's talking, walking and talking, no joke, is a thing that is hard for people with Parkinson's to do. So hence the ability to focus on one thing only at a time. And if you're a care partner, it's especially important to understand for your partner or your whoever, your mom, your dad who has Parkinson's, this is really important that you understand that they just can't do these two things at one time. So when you're asking them, but mom, like, just walk through that doorway. And she's like, okay, just give me a second. And she's got a laser focus on that one thing. And it's not her fault. It's just the way that what's happening in their brain in terms of the chemicals changing, and it can be a really bad thing if you aren't paying attention to that, because that can lead to loss of balance and then falling if they aren't aware, if you, the care partner, aren't aware that focus is really important. So I just want to mention that as a general part of people with Parkinson's, that loss of being able to multitask, it's important that you understand that that's a thing. And then I want to talk about just how my mom learned how to focus over time, not just on tasks, but on like the overall living with Parkinson's and how that helped her. Being, I guess, like all of us, I don't mean all of us as in me, but people who are diagnosed with something, I think it just forces you to focus on what's important. I mean, all of us know that in an instant your life changes, and you have to decide, okay, what's most important. And so focusing was a big deal for us as a family, in going, okay, so what does this mean? Parkinson's, what is it going to mean down the road? And focusing and going, okay, let's try not to get overwhelmed, because we all can get easily overwhelmed about, I know that my doctor friends say, when a patient's in their office and they've just told them they have Parkinson's, they're just going all over the place. Well, what about this? What about this? Like, my life is over. And it's not, but it can seem like it is. And it can be extremely
different.
Yeah.
And change is hard for anybody.
Everyone. Yeah.
But every day, if you have a chronic illness, you're going to have changes every day.
Yes.
And that you're going to have to face. And for many people, the adjustment to, well, I used to do this, and it even happens, I think, Lianna, not only with illness, but with aging in general.
Yeah.
When we look at our lives, I'm a lot older than you, and the fact that I'm going to be 67 in a couple weeks, and I sit back and I think to myself, I can't do the things I used to do, and it's
Right.
frustrating to me.
Yeah.
But it's change. It's being willing to ask for help. It's
Yes.
being willing to be vulnerable and say, you know what, I can't do this anymore, or I surrender. No
Exactly.
man is an
Yeah.
island, as they say,
No,
and I
I
think that that's
know.
it.
And I think what you just said there, like that focusing, and this is one of the biggest helps, I think, for me, for my mom was, and it's so easy to say, but maybe not easy to implement, is focus on the things you can do instead of the things you
Mhm.
can't. And I
Correct.
think that's so easy when things are being taken away from you, when your independence is being taken away from you,
Yeah.
when your mobility is being taken away from you, from these things that were so easy to do before, just like brushing your teeth, which we may take for granted, but now somebody with Parkinson's, they're trying to brush their teeth and it's all over, their
Mhm.
toothpaste is all over their face.
Yeah.
That's why you get the electric toothbrush. But
Yeah.
anyway, but like those kind of things. And for my mom, over time, I'm not saying this happened immediately by any means, nor did it happen with myself,
No.
was that over time going, like you said, so accepting a little bit, being vulnerable, saying, okay, fine, I accept that this is happening, but I'm not giving into it. I like I like Michael J. Fox's quote. I wrote it down. Acceptance doesn't mean resignation. It means understanding that something is what it is and that there's got to be a way through it. So for him, he
I
goes,
love it.
okay, I acknowledge it. And Mike, we all know Michael J. Fox, we love him, but he's not laying down and going, okay, it's all game over, right?
No.
Just Parkinson's just roll over me. So it's acknowledging. And for my mom, it's like, okay, asking for some help, being okay, being vulnerable, and honing in on those things that she could still control. So
Sure.
control the things that you can, try not to worry about the things that you can't. I know it's easier said than done,
Mm-hmm.
but we can all take that as good advice in our lives, right? Like
Absolutely.
the serenity prayer, but I would say that for us was a big thing. And so she, over time, learn to focus on things like I can control my diet, what goes into my mouth, to help with my Parkinson's symptoms. I can control my exercise to an extent, even when she was losing her mobility. She
Mm-hmm.
could control that. She could control whom she allowed in her circle. So if somebody was being very negative or putting her down about her Parkinson's, which unfortunately did happen, she would say, you know what? I don't have room for that in my life anymore. I'm going to control that piece of my life. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to have I'm going to surround myself with people that are going to build me up instead of look at me like I'm weaker because I have Parkinson's, or might ridicule me because I have Parkinson's, right? So those are the things she focused on, and I believe for really did make a difference over time. And I think I always think of things in athletic terms, but because I'm an athlete. But when you learning mental training for something like shooting, like a target or something, right? Or golf, as my husband plays, it's easy to go, like, let's say I'm looking at a target and I'm trying to hit a 10, like right bullseye down the
Mm-hmm.
middle. I want to say, hit a 10. I don't want to say in my head, don't hit a 5, because as soon as you have that
Correct.
in your head, don't do that one.
Correct.
That's where your mind goes, right?
Yep.
So it's a subtle but very effective thing to change. So when someone with Parkinson's is going along and going on their day, and darn it, the wheels shut down, your legs stop moving, whatever it is that's going on, and you want to focus on the thing that you want to happen as opposed to the thing that you don't. I'm not suggesting that you can just mentally train yourself out of a symptom. However, I will say that it certainly doesn't hurt to be focusing on the things that you want as opposed to the things that you don't want. So
Yeah.
that's just something that we found over time really helped my mom. And it took a lot of inner strength to keep steering back to that. Nope, I'm not gonna think about 5,000 things that need to happen. I'm going to focus on this one thing. I'm getting from here to here.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to allow all the distractions of things that aren't going my way today.
Yeah.
So that's how.
Well, and I'm reminded too, it's a lot of us are faced with overwhelming circumstances at
Right.
times, good and bad.
Yeah.
And sometimes there's a statement, the longest journey begins with a single step.
Exactly.
Don't only only do what you can do in any minute. And you know what? It's going to happen eventually. It's like, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time.
Yeah.
Nobody's asking anybody with a chronic disease, or extraordinary circumstances to do something or extraordinary, right? It's a matter of accepting what you can do and focusing on the little things, one step at a time. And I think, eliminating the distractions, not listening to the noise from other people saying they think you should do this or should do that. Little things like that is I think really a part of self-care and making sure that you can, move forward. Wouldn't you say that's true?
Oh yeah. I mean, and I know people probably going, oh yeah, sure. Easier said than done. And it is sometimes. And I agree. And for care partners in particular too, it's like we talk about that, which we have full segments on that in terms of self-care for the care partner. But it really is like, well, if you want to think of it as triage, think of it that way. What's the most important thing? And we're going to deal with that today at this moment. And nothing else really matters at this moment, right?
Yeah.
What is it, that thing? And if it's like, well, mom, I need, what is the most important thing? And she says to me, Lianna, all I need is a hug. Well, darn it, I'm going to give you that hug and then we're going to go on. But like, all I need to do is get out of this chair and get into that chair over there. I'm like, we can do that, mom. We can do that. All right. I'm here to help you, whatever it is. And the same thing for the care partner. What is the most important thing for me now? I need my 15 minutes of meditation or my 15 minutes for me time, right? Whatever that is. Yeah.
Yeah. So, thank you so much for that piece of wisdom. And coming up next, I love how you titled your segments. But we're going to throw out what does it mean to be empowered with Parkinson's? Lianna and I are going to talk about it in segment 3.
The preceding Parkinson's Path podcast is provided by Lianna Marie with All About Parkinson's and Answers for Elders Radio. To learn more about Lianna's story, her books, The Parkinson's Wall of Honor, and more, go to allaboutparkinsons.com.